Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 197 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guests, Rick Allen and Lauren Monroe, I want to remind you about everything that you can find online at mistresscarrie.com. Not only can you find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast and every episode of my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, but you can also check out my blog, send me a message right here in the studio, get all of the links to my socials, stay caught up with all the concerts coming through New England in the concert calendar, and you can do some shopping in the online Mistress Carrie store. Find all that and more at mistresscarrie.com. My guests this week are drummer Rick Allen from Def Leppard and singer and songwriter Lauren Monroe. This power couple are on tour right now and appearing tonight, March 13th, at City Winery, Boston. Together, they're also the founders of the Raven Drum Foundation, an organization that serves, educates, and empowers trauma survivors and communities in crisis with a focus on veterans and first responders. By integrating advocacy, storytelling, music and arts programs, and events, they bring tools and experiences of contemporary and alternative medicine to support and inspire mental health, resiliency, and unity. Rick and Lauren checked in to talk about the healing power of music and their work with first responders and veterans. They also talked about the history of drumming and Rick Allen's experience recovering from the accident that took his arm and almost took his drumming career as a member of Def Leppard. He talked about what it's like to play Fenway Park, where he'll be later this year on August 5th with the band and Journey. We talked about marching bands and women's soccer and the apology that I have been waiting years for from Def Leppard. So allow me to introduce you to Rick Allen and Lauren Monroe. Lauren and Rick, thank you so much for coming on the show. So nice to meet you.
Oh, fantastic.
Great to be here.
You guys are headed to Boston for a very cool show at City Winery on the 13th. So I wanted to talk to you guys about all of the things that you have going on because you're doing some amazing work with veterans. That is something that I do so much work with. And you've got events and this foundation, so I couldn't wait to talk to you.
Oh, fantastic. Well, yeah, we love coming to Boston, and it's going to be very busy while we're there. And we're actually going to be doing a lot of work or supporting our first responders, not just our veterans, but all first responders, particularly firefighters, right?
Yep. On this trip, we're really focusing on the need of the firefighters, since there is quite a bit of trauma. And we're there with our drum support, with our music support, with our alternative healing support, and we weave it into our events, all that we do. So we're at the City Winery on the 13th. And we're doing a private event as well. And we'll have a lot of firefighters there.
Well, as the daughter of a career firefighter, I appreciate it because I grew up with it every day.
Yeah, and I think, it's a ripple effect because our men and women that go into these very dangerous situations, like in combat and also first responders, that's every day for them. They don't get a break. And you see it takes a toll. And because of the very nature of that culture in itself, you don't really share your feelings and you don't share what's going on. And it's very hard to manage all that in a family, as well in relationships. And we want to just make it easier for everyone. And with the tools that we have in navigating trauma and being able to understand your body, what happens to yourself, I think it really helps people learn how to monitor their triggers and be aware of their triggers so that they can also teach their family, and learn more about themselves in this way.
Well, music has always been a unifier, that it didn't really matter what it is that you do outside, but as soon as you step into that concert or you start talking to a stranger about music that you both love, it's like everything else kind of falls away.
Yeah, music in that way is magical. And I think it can help us, it can really help us, just release some of this stuff, release it helps me. I think particularly when I'm playing music, it helps me stay in the moment and allows me to release some of the trauma that I've experienced over the years,
Well, I would think that an injured first responder or an injured veteran, Rick, you're such an inspiration in the music world, but definitely for people that grew up in the rock world, because it would have been very easy for you not to have been able to play drums anymore. And so for someone that's been injured on the job to see what you've been able to accomplish since your injury, it's incredibly inspiring.
Well, I hope it is. I just want our first responders to know that, if it wasn't for them, I might not be here. So, this is my way of being able to give back and really pay homage to people that put themselves at risk every single day.
I do want to say on a lighter note that there are some things you can't get back. And I wanted to make sure that I brought this up with you. I had my 16th birthday party canceled because I snuck out of the house to go see Def Leppard on the Hysteria tour, and I got caught, and my birthday party was canceled, and it was the tour with Queensryche, and I told the Queensryche guys the same thing. I never had my 16th birthday party, Rick, and I blame you.
Oh, well, we could celebrate when we get there.
Are you guys going to have a cake for me all these years later?
Yeah, we will. Listen, we'll make it happen.
Lauren, I was really excited to talk to you because I am not someone that comes easily to spirituality. There are people that it comes to so young and so easily, and I am someone that has kind of struggled with that. And in doing my research about you and your music, it seems like it was something that came to you very early.
It was. I had a natural connection to energy bigger than myself. I had a connection. My family was, Roman Catholic Italian family. They immigrated. I was in New York. I grew up in New York. So we had, a concept of religion and spirituality. But then when it became really close to me and I started experience things, visions and things where I was being initiated as a little girl, as a healer from what I was experiencing. They didn't have a manual for that. But I learned really early on to research science, and science right now especially can give us very clear definitions around what this experience is that we have when we experience something spiritual. There's a biochemical reaction that happens when our heart opens and our mind opens at the same time. These spiritual experiences that we may have just in nature, especially, I always tell people, go to nature. What do you feel like in that moment when you're thinking about your relative that may have passed and, that bird flies by or you hear the trees, and what happens is there's an opening and we're able to really experience something spiritual. It doesn't have to be in religion for everybody. It could be through nature and through community. And that's what we're doing during our shows, is giving people another window to connect with their hearts and their spirits together through music. And that's what makes this so special, what we're doing. I can relate to you in how that's hard for a lot of people to, especially when there's a lot of dark stuff going on in the world and you see that at a young age. It's hard to believe that there's like a God that would allow things to happen. But then when you experience things in another level, you realize that we're all connected and we're all manifesting this world together, and through our intention.
It seems like we had very similar upbringings because I'm just the Italian girl from Boston. So
yeah,
it's the same kind of thing.
Well, we need to talk. We need to talk.
Rick, and I'm assuming like my husband, you're there watching the experience of being married to someone from that kind of upbringing, because it takes a certain kind of person to handle an Italian woman in America.
No, I mean, I get it. You should see our daughter. My daughter or our daughter looks like me, but I think she's 51% Italian.
Yeah, well,
on the inside, it's pretty. It's disconcerting.
It's a learning curve.
It is. It's a
learning curve.
I love it. I know pretty much every Italian in New York now, so we're good.
You got welcomed into the club. You're good.
Yeah.
I'm like your daughter, is that I take after my mother's family aesthetically, but the attitude and the temper, it's all hidden and camouflaged. So I totally understand it. When it comes to percussion and drumming specifically, when you look at the history of humanity and mankind, it really is the first instrument, right? What is it about the drums that kind of touches our souls? Why is it so tribal in all cultures around the world?
Well, I think one of the things we talk about is we're rhythmic beings. The first rhythm we ever heard was while we were in utero, listening to our mother's heartbeat. We have different cycles. Our skin sheds. We have a pulse. There's all these different rhythms going on within our bodies, within our lives, and I think drumming is just an attempt to mimic that.
Mm-hmm. And culturally, in all cultures all around the world, drums and percussion were their first ways to communicate. And we would celebrate with drumming and we would grieve with drumming. We would communicate one tribe from the next when they weren't in close proximity. They would talk to each other through rhythms and drums. So it's in our DNA, no matter where we are in our cultural background. And the frequency of drums reaches our body. Like we feel it. Even when you go to a concert, like if you go see Rick and the band, you'll feel that bass drum. You really feel what it does to your body, and it does something. It helps us release and move energy.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is my intention while I'm playing drums, how I want people to feel, and that's really part of my prayer before I play. Is I want this to be the best experience, for everybody out there, and you see that on people's faces. You see the way people respond to the music. So I think music is kind of the vehicle, and you can use your intention to carry that message.
You're talking about when, people go to see the band, you're talking about Def Leppard, and this isn't going to be your only trip into Boston at City Winery on the 13th. You're coming back with Journey and Heart and once again playing the hallowed grounds of Fenway Park. The chapel that is Boston.
It is a chapel.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Now, we played there a few times now, and what an incredible experience. I don't think I could even begin to describe the feeling of a Boston crowd that size. And yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to come back?
Did they let you climb around inside Fenway? Did you get to go into like the locker rooms? Did you get to go inside the Monster?
It is like it's a museum. I mean, it's a living museum. I mean, you see all this memorabilia that dates back, 100 years. It's insane. I mean, that place is a shrine. It really is.
When you guys leave Boston and leave City Winery, Lauren, you're going home to New York, and you are doing this big event. And I laughed when I saw the lineup because I'm like, yeah, of course. They're going through their address books and they're calling all their friends, like Liberty DeVito, like Peter Criss, like Paul Schaefer. I'm like, 5 minutes in you guys' phone. I would love to make those phone calls. This event sounds amazing.
Well, we got to gather some people for the 16th birthday. So, we'll have a look through.
See? Exactly. That's what you owe me, Rick. So tell me about this big event that you're doing in New York, because you're pulling out all the stops on this one.
Well, it stemmed from a couple of years ago. We did 12 drummers drumming. And I think that was the beginning of all these drummers coming forth and just saying yes and donating all this incredible, memorabilia. And, it was a great way to raise money for, again, first responders, veterans. And I think this is just an extension of that, bringing it into a live venue. And, all these drummers, everybody's doing it because they connect, because they love what we're doing, and
they're fans of each other too.
Yeah.
I want to be there, like Jim Keltner's going to be there. I want to go meet him, and I want to go meet Rick. And it's this reunion of drummers, I think, that never really got a chance to meet each other as well. So it's going to be fun for everyone.
Yeah,
and the proceeds go to Friends of Firefighters, where we are doing a collaborative event. And they are an amazing organization that treat firefighters, and they started after 9/11. They renovated an old firehouse, and they converted it into a community space where firefighters and their families can come and talk. And then it evolved into providing counseling services. And then now they have alternative healing treatments there, like acupuncture and massage therapy. And
how many people have they treated now?
They have last year, I think they treated 40. They gave 4,500 free counseling sessions last year. And that to me is just very exciting, because the need is there, but now our firefighters and first responders are coming forward to get more help, where it was so taboo before, and there's such stigma. Same thing with veterans, and veterans now have walked through that gateway, and there's so many of them looking for help that is outside of prescription drugs and talk therapy, which they work too, but it doesn't work for everyone. And so bringing it into alternative methods and community around this, I think is really helpful. So we're really proud to be a part of this, and especially to be around our first responders in person and to talk with them and share Rick's journey of his trauma and what he's been doing, and to share some of the knowledge that I have too.
Yeah, we're excited for people to come out to Boston City Winery, because we want people to know that when they walk into that place, they are part of the healing the community. Because a portion of the money will go to to first responders. So I think it's important for people to know that they're helping right on their own doorstep, which is brilliant.
It's a different experience than going to Fenway Park for sure, but it's very intimate. I mean, I think Boston Winery holds about 250 people, maybe a little less.
It's such a beautiful venue. It's so nice in there.
It really is. And this is our third time there. And we just love the Boston community that turns up, and we'll have people that we'll recognize from last time and the time before. And we're building a family, I think, in Boston. We're really happy about.
You talk about family. You're the first couple that I've had on the show that were both musicians. So I wanted to ask you both, do you remember the minute that you kind of realized that you wanted to be a musician when you were kids? And what was it that made you go, okay? Because I didn't get that gene. I wish I did, but my musical career ended in the marching band in high school with the clarinet, and it never continued.
Never came back.
Interesting enough, for me, it was first thing Sunday morning, and the marching band would be, going up the street, and I heard that big bass drum, and I would run out there as a kid, and I would be right next to the guy with the big drum, just marching up the street, and that was the first real feeling I got, And I was probably 6 or 7 years old, And I knew there was something. I think with your grandpa Nick, right?
And my grandfather, and my dad were both entertained. My dad was a singer, just not professionally, but he was a crooner and, liked all Italian music. I grew up with Frank Sinatra in the house. My grandfather was a player too.
Sound familiar?
So I they gave me a guitar when I was 5, and then I started writing my little songs. So I started then as a way to just express myself. It was just a natural thing to do. I connect as a songwriter. That happened very, very early on.
Do you still have your first instruments from when do you have your first guitar? Do you have your first drum still? Please say yes.
Wish I did.
I wish I did. It was a blue sparkle. It was a blue sparkle kit, and every time I hit the cymbal too hard, it would turn inside out. So it was. You know what? Looking back, it was really this cheap and nasty kit, but to me, it was a Rolls Royce, and I'm so disappointed that I actually got rid of it. But I had to get rid of it to buy my next drum kit. So you've got to compromise occasionally.
Lauren, you talked about the crooner music that you listened to growing up. I have a theory about music that there's the soundtrack to your childhood, and then there's something you hear, usually right around your teenage years, adolescence, and you go, oh, no, wait, I like that. And then your musical taste changes moving forward. So, Rick, what was the soundtrack to your childhood? And then what was it for both of you that you heard and said, okay, hold on, now I know what I like?
Well, I grew up, my dad had an extensive record collection, and I remember hearing Glenn Miller. That was kind of my first recollection of music, and then it just grew from there. I had an older brother, and he started bringing home Deep Purple records, and so I was exposed to many different types of music. But I think it was when I first heard "Made in Japan" by Deep Purple. I think that was one of the things that really it was like I want to do that. This guy, So here I am.
Lauren, what about you? What was it that got you away from Frank Sinatra?
There was always top 40 radio on in the car, but I did really connect with Jim Morrison. Because he was a poet, and I think he wrote about dark things and light things and love, and I just really connected.
He was handsome,
and he was handsome too. It's gorgeous. But it was when I saw Tom Petty when I was 14. I was my first live concert, and it was at SPAC up in Saratoga, in New York, and I remember seeing the show and going, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to play. I want to write. I want to. So, I always just, I just continued playing and writing, and he still is my inspiration. He's such a talented songwriter, and so he inspires me.
Rick, what about your first concert? She gets Tom Petty. Who did you get?
Believe it or not, do you remember the Tramps?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had 2 drummers, 2 bass players, and there was this whole spiel about, sort of tramp stew. And that was how the whole night started off. It was so cool. They'd start out with this drum rhythm, and then the second drummer would come in, and then the bass started, and then the second bass player would start. It was awesome. So that was, I mean, it's strange to think that it didn't all start with rock music. But it was sort of the gateway drug.
I always ask songwriters on the show this songwriting question because I'm so envious of the craft, because I've tried to do it and just can't. but it's not a favorite song question. It's a craft question about what makes a song like perfectly written. Is there a song by any artist, any genre that you covet and go, oh, I wish I wrote that song. It's so perfect the way that they crafted it. Doesn't matter who it is, but why do you think that song is perfect?
There's a lot of them.
There's a cover that she does, "Calling All Angels." I think that's a really beautiful song.
It's by Jane Seabury. She's a Canadian artist. But as far as a well-known artist, the song "Imagine," that was given to him as a gift. That was a message. So I lean to songs that have messages in them. It has deep meaning. Some of these lyrics. Elton John was amazing. Still is an amazing songwriter. Billy Joel, like those are very, very well crafted songs.
Every songwriter that comes on the show, when we talk about Elton John, I've never met another songwriter that crafts songs the way that Elton John and Bernie Taupin do. And every songwriter I've ever had on the show is like, I have no idea how they do that because that would not work for me.
Yeah.
I asked Bernie Taupin once, I said, how did, Candle in the Wind come about? And he said, I heard it in my head. And within 10 minutes, I'd got the whole thing written down. All the backing vocals are there. Everything was there. All I had to do was just sort of slow down long enough to get it all down on paper. And he said the song just fell out of the ethers.
I've heard musicians say that before. And Lauren, you were kind of alluding to it, Imagine being like a gift. I've heard songwriters say that the songs kind of already exist. It's about you pulling them out of where they are. Is that what you believe too?
Exactly. And I think that's where we lean into this healing experience as well, because that calm, that peace, that oneness is there too. And you just have to learn how to, musicians, songwriters know how to do this. And it's not even conscious, to get that song that comes down in 10 minutes and it's done. That takes an expanded consciousness to just open up to the unseen world, and you get it, it comes in and it's there, and it's manifested. And I think that's the track, that's the channel you have to turn on to find this inner peace that we all need to heal. And that's what we give people in our work with the drums, is that we teach them how to turn that channel on. So whether you want to receive healing, or you want to be a better songwriter, you want to be a better parent, you want to be, a better person in service to the community, learning these things are just essential, I think, to growing as a human being.
Yes.
That's a really great question you had about songwriting. That applies to just being a human, I think, too.
Is it like dialing in a radio station?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like tuning into a bandwidth, a different signal than our mind. Not, we deal with our mind, and our mind bounces around ideas all the time, but you turn on a different signal, you're going to get all types of different experiences and things you can use in your life, like writing a song.
Well, it's ironic that I work in radio and my radio's broken, because I've tried to write songs and tune into that frequency and it doesn't work.
Can you write a love letter?
I've tried, but it is just, I guess talking is my thing, but the writing down of it and the trying to get other people, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's me just feeling kind of foolish trying. Maybe that's the hump I need to get over.
We all have something we need to get over.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I got to preface this question with an apology. I blame Geezer Butler for this question. I ask everybody this question, and it's ridiculous, but it's Geezer's fault, because when I talked to him, he let it slip that he had 13 cats and 5 dogs. And when I asked him how he comes up with names for all of his pets, he laughed and said that he and his wife, Gloria, named them all after gangster rappers. That's fun. After I picked myself up off the floor laughing that Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath's pets are named after gangster rappers, we have now dubbed this the Geezer question. And I know that on your Instagram, is it Joey that pops up every now and again?
Yeah, see, we have one dog, but he's got about 50 names. So we went the opposite way.
So there's always a story where the name comes from. That's why I had to ask you, because I would never have asked this question. But I blame Geezer. It's his fault.
Well, with that, I think Joey, people might think the obvious, but it's probably more leaning towards Joey Kramer.
He does have the curly hair like Joey Kramer does.
I know he does. And he's from Boston.
That's right.
We wanted to call him Joey Bag of Donuts.
No, I wanted to call him football, or worse, beginning with A. Yeah.
Have you started calling it football now? Have you succumbed to that now?
No. He's a sweet boy. He wants to be good, as Lauren says. He wants to be good. He's finding it difficult, but he's a sweet boy. He really is, and he's still young, so he's got room for growth.
No, I mean football, American football. Have you succumbed to
no. I was going to call the dog football.
I know, but when you said that, I'm like, wait, which football is he talking about? The English football or the American football?
No, I can appreciate all sport, but obviously I grew up with what you guys call soccer. So that was my sport. Cheap sport. All you needed was a ball, and that was about it. So that was a good place to start.
We're pretty excited. We're going to get some of those World Cup games here in New England at Gillette Stadium.
That's fantastic, actually. It's really exciting. It really is. But honestly, I find women's soccer less pretentious, to be honest. They just get on with it.
Well, it's Women's History Month, and there have been a lot of people that have said that in all of men's sports, it's a lot more about individualism and showboating, but with women's sports, that it's more about the fundamentals and the teamwork, and it goes to exactly what you're talking about.
I think that's true. You know, a lot of men's soccer. I don't know. They're opportunists. Sometimes you know they look like they're injured, but they're really not.
That's so wrong.
It's so wrong, but it's kind of true.
There we go.
Yeah.
See?
It's kind of true. They might take a dive every now and again for a little extra sympathy. Whereas, you know, the girl's got like, you know, a bloody nose and her eye is all puffed up and she's like, I'm fine. I'll walk it off. I'll get back out there.
Flesh wound.
That's what women do.
Just a flesh wound. It always sounds funnier when someone from England says it, by the way, because we just grew up.
Especially with fists, you know.
I'm going to let you make that joke, Rick, because I would never be the one to make it.
It's been said many times, trust me.
You'll be at the City Winery on the 13th, and then obviously you're going to be back at Fenway Park later this summer with Def Leppard. If people want to find your foundation and learn more information about all of the work you're doing with first responders and veterans, where should they go?
RavendrumFoundation.org.
RavendrumFoundation.org.
Yeah.
Yes. And you'll find out everything. There's links. There's all kinds of stuff. People want to buy tickets, find out what we're doing, what we've done, maybe some things that we're going to be doing in the future. So it's a great resource.
Thank you both so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. I'll see you guys next week in Boston.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Belated. Much belated. There they are, Rick Allen and Lauren Monroe. You can see them tonight, March 13th at City Winery, Boston. And if you want more details on their tour dates, to get tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey at Fenway Park, and more information on the Raven Drum Foundation, just check the links in the show notes of this episode. You'll find all of Rick and Lauren's links, all the Mistress Carrie links, and the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the songs and artists that we talked about in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep, giving you all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. You can join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, which streams live on my Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the details on all of that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.